Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Scott's Soldiers. One of the most viewed episodes is the December 2023 London show. I think more people have watched that episode than actually attended the event. Well, today I want to take you to the December 2024 London show. Always a glutton for punishment, I went, and it gave me a chance to see what was new and what was for sale that was old. The show was at its usual venue, the Chalk Farm School, near the tube station. I tried to get there early enough to see what was available, check in on some of my favorite makers, and chat with some friends who were also attending. As I mentioned in last year's video, this is a good opportunity to see British toy soldier makers as well as dealers. There are a bit of old and new, metal and plastic, gloss, matte, as well as castings, hobby supplies, and other related material. So whether you collect sets, like to paint your own figures, or are looking for something to add to your collection, this is a good place to start.
The cost to attend the show is £6, and I traveled from central London on the Northern Line and arrived just after 10 o'clock. Cash is still king, so make sure you have plenty of pound notes, and while some vendors were capable of doing electronic transfers, the Wi-Fi was not reliable. Light refreshments and sandwiches are provided by the school canteen, and there are restrooms available and plenty of free parking. Like other events or shows, this is a good opportunity to visit with people in the trade and talk with them about their figures or sets, and they love to chat about the hobby. These traders are approachable, eager to hear what you collect, what you like, and what you think. It's a long day for them, and it has to be a boost to hear that you liked what they are making or to inquire about a bespoke set. Here you can meet some of the personalities in the hobby, such as James Opie, the Turners from Fusilier Miniatures, and Thomas Gunn Miniatures, to name a few. So what did I see that caught my eye? As always, I'm interested in the dealers who are selling new and second-hand or previously loved figures or sets, not only to see what they have available and if there is something on my bucket list, but also to get an idea of what prices are like at the show, the range or diversity of items, etc., and then share that experience, that knowledge with you. This year, I noticed a lot of box sets of Britain's detail. I don't know if there were more than last year, but it caught my eye. Also, there were a number of flats, vintage European makers, books, prints, and of course, persons downsizing their personal collections. Replica Metal Soldiers was here, and I stopped to talk to Andrew Stevenson and his father, picked up some items that were pre-ordered, and looked at a selection of other items. Noteworthy was this selection of armored vehicles from the interwar years, 3D resin and very nicely detailed and painted. These would make a very nice addition as we are inundated with choices relative to World War II fighting vehicles, but pre-1939 are like hen's teeth. I can imagine the armored cars being part of an Irish Free State National Army with a Michael Collins figure and troops. Replica also had its annual 19th century Christmas sets out this year, and this year being a Royal Artillery figure, the Quartermaster, working over the holidays. Amongst the makers, I always take a look at the Fusilier Miniatures. I've bought from them before, and so this is a must-stop. Britain's was of course present, and I slowed down to see if they had any stock of French and Indian War, or older items to fill in gaps, but no luck. Amongst the newer items were resin castings of figures that you could paint yourself. Now, Asset, as always, has a good selection of castings and painted figures and sets. Grey Goose was present, and I stopped to admire their display of John Jenkins figures, artillery, and aircraft. Little Legion Toy Soldiers had a full table, and I was tempted to buy there. While I don't have any stock from this company, I think they, along with Asset, Replica, and British Toy Soldier, make well-painted gloss figures, which go well with my current collection. So I'm going to just stop here and let this video run a bit so you can see what I was seeing.
The other ones I had, there was a lot more because they got used past the centrifuge. You also then use a vulcanizer for making the bottles. So now it's really big bulky thing. So heat pans and melts. So much actually melts everything. So they're not silicone.
As I mentioned, British Toy Soldier Company with Loggerhead Military Studio was present with castings and sets. Also was White Tower Miniatures with an impressive choice of Wild West figures and medieval knights. There were 72 traders listed, and as you've seen, this includes the larger makers, but also a good smattering of private vendors where you can find the previously loved items at a reasonably good price. So let's take a look at some of the other tables where items were for sale. I'll try to identify the maker or provide some context around the images. Don't hesitate to pause if the images are too fast. These are, of course, John Jenkins' design. The warbirds were, of course, fantastic. Here are some more figures, including the recent Northwest Mounted Police, some ancients, and German armored vehicles. Samex is a toy soldier dealer from Rome, Italy, and was the, I suppose, official King and Country dealer there. It had a large table and a good selection of figures. There were other private vendors selling King and Country, and from what I observed, these were usually the older and harder to find retired sets, as you'll see at the end when I show you what I bought. I suppose if you were hunting for a set not found on an authorized dealer's shelf, this was as good a place as any to look. There was, of course, a wide choice of Britons from the company itself and individual dealers. I didn't have any luck finding my stuff, but there was still a lot of choices if you were looking for figures from its more recent lines and some even further back. I didn't see a lot of inter- or post-war figures, but as mentioned earlier, there seemed to be more detailed available. I thought the price for this later version of the Princess Pats was a good deal. Regarding plastics, I have to mention that Steve Weston Toy Soldiers was a vendor there. I met Steve in Chicago several years ago. Really nice man and knowledgeable. So if plastic is your itch, there were a lot of choices. I mentioned the number of detail items, and as I look back, I think there were more this year than last. But there were also swappets of various types, bins of plastics, box sets, and plastic bags of loose figures. Again, if you collect plastic toy soldiers, I think you could have done well, at least from a choice point of view. Since I don't collect plastic, I'm in no position to judge the prices or demand for the figures and sets. But still, there was a good selection. There were also painted figures and busts for sale if you didn't want to purchase castings or sets of toy soldiers. Some of these I don't think were for sale, but may have been for display purposes only. Nonetheless, they are a welcome diversion to see what artistry some people have and the potential to breathe life into these items. But take a look yourself and tell me you wouldn't have spent time carefully examining each and every one of them. Now a short word about resources. And what I mean are books, magazine, tools, kits and castings, and of course people. The London show, as do other events, has resources. I'm sure I could have picked up a casting, brushes, paints, a book or two related to the casting, and gone home happy. This is a sometimes overlooked aspect of attending these events and why I'm such a big proponent of getting out of your house, getting out of your flat, getting out of your chair, and go to these events and really get a lesson on what you are collecting. The presence of plastic model kits and club displays did not detract from the event. In my opinion, this is the evolution of hobbies, where you're going to see shows or events opening or expanding the range of participants. Hobbies are not what they were 10, 20, or 50 years ago. Some are thriving, others are struggling, and having a little cross-pollination is not a bad thing. It allows the London show to survive, brings in potentially more enthusiasts, and creates a bigger footprint in the overall London events calendar. I, for one, was interested in what plastic models, dioramas, or completed sets were on display or for sale. Now, I didn't buy any, but there were lots of people who were talking to the vendors, engaging with them. So, what's the problem? They paid to get in. They're adding to the show by just being there. And I think that there is a lot that we can learn from the plastic models and vice versa. It's not like we own the turf or we're the be-all to end-all in this hobby. So I think there has to be a little allowance because in the long run, it's only going to serve each other. That's my sort of rant for the day. Last year, there was a Roman legion fortified camp on display, and this year it was an ancient Egyptian theme with a structure at its center. I find these extremely well detailed, well thought out, highlighting how the figures we collect, regardless of time period or maker, can tell a story or capture a moment in time. Now, I made a video of this, so have a look and enjoy it. Now, before we look at what I bought, I want to still show you some of the images that got left on the editing floor. Samex had some frontline North American Indians, Del Prado figures, and bags of plastics on top of the King and Country, so kudos to them for a wide assortment. Here are some knights and Roman figures. Well, I did see some medieval figures on other tables, White Tower's table in particular. I don't recall seeing a lot of Roman or ancient Greek. These regal figures were unique not only because I don't often see them, or these types of settings in gloss. This table caught my eye because of the Staden figures, the fireplace, and jousting knights. If you were looking for a fireplace for a diorama, this would have been a good choice. This other table had boxes of loose metal figures, likely a mix of Britons, Timpo, Crescent, who knows. But the price was right, and if you were handy with a pot of paint, you could strip them and give them a new life. And lastly, this table was a private vendor downsizing his soldiers, and he had a good cross-section to choose from, and I think his prices were reasonable. As I mentioned earlier, I did notice more flats than previously, and these were a set of British infantry, early 1800s at the show. I don't know if that is a good price, but as we don't see a lot of flats on this side of the Atlantic, it might be a good way to kickstart or add to a collection. Again, here is a good assortment of what I believe are Staten figures on their bases. The next several images are of vendors downsizing. Now, this is one of the reasons why I am a proponent of attending shows and events, because of these types of offers, particularly when you could negotiate the final sale price. Now, since it was December, here are some more Christmas-related figures to add to a mantelpiece. Salvation Army figures are a must for a sidewalk Christmas theme. Often the most eye-catching are when the vendors set up the pieces as mini dioramas or with a backdrop to show you how your purchase could be arranged. Eye candy, but effective. And here is a selection of William Cranston sets. If you were an aficionado of his work, then the show was an opportunity to expand your collection, and I think at a reasonable price. So the age-old question, what did I pick up? Well, I finally found my Canadian D-Day command set, made by King & Country, number DD112. This has been a challenge to find, and I can't believe I walked by this twice before slowing down to look at it a third time and then making the purchase. I found these two artillery pieces, both boxed with their ammunition. A Crescent 5.5-inch howitzer, number 1251, still tied down and pristine. It'll be a nice addition to my other Crescent cannons. This is a Britain's 2-pounder anti-aircraft gun, number 1715. By buying both from a private vendor, I saved £10, so that's £10 that I could put towards something else. When I passed by Replica earlier in the day, I picked up the following from Andrew Stevenson. A B-series British Hussar. I mentioned in my last episode that Replica makes these, and I think they are both charming and an easy way to collect B-series 45mm figures, which are not easy to find in North America. I also brought home his Christmas 2024 Visit to Stores, The Quartermaster, a cheeky title but fitting for the occasion. Replica also has Christmas ornaments. I know, toy soldiers, but yeah, they look good on a Christmas tree. This one is ready to be hung on our Christmas tree. And I was also gifted from Ian Stevenson a number of figures. Come on, Ian, smile. These figures are from his extensive collection. Like the ones he shared in October, these will also have a place of pride in my display case. Thanks, Ian. If you live within traveling distance of London or any other toy soldier event, then I cannot emphasize enough the value in attending. The next show in London is May 10th, 2025. Bring cash, bring a bucket list, or some reference to what you need to fill a gap or kickstart your collection. The London show is an ideal venue for a new collector or someone who is just looking to expand. While 2025 will offer events on both sides of the Atlantic, now's the time to start planning if travel is a requirement to get there. Already I can think of the Heart of the South, February 22nd, the West Coaster in March, On Parade in June in Toronto, the World Expo in Versailles in July, and that's in France, Chicago in September, but I'll leave a list in the description paragraph. Thank you for watching, and please leave a comment if you were at London and let us know what you thought of the show. If you like this episode, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to the channel. Until next time, keep collecting and Happy New Year.